All right, welcome back to another video. I'm your host, Sam Gold, and today we're back in the studio. We're talking some football. It's currently late July, and as you can see by the title, record predictions are here. We do this every offseason. I'm very excited for it. We got all 32 teams in front of me right now with set predictions, which I know 100% are going to be correct because I totally don't average about 2 to 3 correct a year. Let's do it. Let's start with the AFC. And let's start with the AFC East. I'm going to go in order from first place to fourth place with each record. So here we go. Let's start with a team that I have touted throughout the years as my second favorite team in the NFL. I'm still positive if they stay healthy. Now, here's another thing I'm going to keep saying. If they stay healthy, my record predictions are just going to assume that everybody stays healthy, okay? Because you can't really just bank on injuries. So here we go. Let's start with number one. I'm going to go with the Miami Dolphins, my second favorite team, at 11-6. They were 11-6 last year, except this time they're not going to blow it in Week 18 against the Bills like they did last year. And here's the thing. I'm not big on the Miami Dolphins. There's been many jokes about how they can't play in the cold weather. They're not really one of those top echelon teams. It feels like anytime they play at home, that's when they're at their best. So do I have faith that the Dolphins do much more than they did last season? They're just going to have to prove it to me. I don't know. I mean, look, as long as you have a healthy Tyreek Hill, Jalen Waddle, Tua, Achane is coming back in his second season. I think he's going to absolutely improve. Raheem Mostert, that's another guy who has some injury issues. But look, I think the Dolphins right now, with the Bills being slightly worse, the Jets are still up for grabs. You never know with the Jets. And then the Patriots aren't supposed to be a good team. It feels like this is the season that the Dolphins finally come out and win the division. So let's see. With that being said, I have the Bills still making the playoffs with double-digit wins, surprisingly, at 10-7. That's coming from a Chiefs fan. I don't like the Bills. I respect them, but, I'm not rooting for them. Obviously, they lost Stephon Diggs. Obviously, they lost a couple defensive pieces. I wouldn't say their draft was phenomenal, although I do like Keon Coleman, the new wide receiver coming out. He should be a big part of the offense because they don't really have many pieces right now. So it's kind of going to be a season to see whether or not Josh Allen has to carry the entire team on his back, or maybe one of these other additional pieces step up. Maybe Khalil Shakir is better. Maybe Marquez Valdez-Scantling. Wow, I haven't said that name since the Super Bowl. Shout out. Maybe he does well on the Bills. I don't know. I'm not the biggest Sean McDermott fan. I thought he actually should have been fired last year, or even 2 years ago. Not 2 years ago, but definitely last year. But look, with Josh Allen, he's a top 3 quarterback in the NFL, in my opinion. As long as he's there, it's kind of like the Mahomes effect. I don't see them being a bad team. And, I still put them at 10-7, making a wild card spot. Okay, the New York Jets. So this is a team that so many people love to talk about in the offseason. Totally understand that. I mean, Aaron Rodgers, we all know what happened to him last season. Played 4 snaps, was out for the rest of the season. Now he's coming back. He's 40. I think he turns 41 in December, I want to say. But look, he's over 40 now. He's coming off of an Achilles, of course. Everybody knows. And it's the Jets. The Jets are cursed. I don't know what else to tell you. I'm not going to have them making the playoffs as long as they just prove me otherwise. They haven't made the playoffs since 2010, I believe. Yeah. And that's when they made the championship game with Mark Sanchez. I mean, Aaron Rodgers, he's playing another Monday Night Football game to start the season against the Niners. People are like, yeah, he has the opportunity to do the funniest thing. I agree. I'm not gonna put it out there. You know what I'm talking about, but I mean, look, I have them at 9-8. I haven't even said the record yet. I just realized 9-8. I picture the Jets as one of those teams that's going in to the end of the season with a chance to make the playoffs, and because it's the Jets and because they're cursed, they're going to find a way to blow it somehow and just miss the playoffs, and then everything goes into flames. And Aaron Rodgers can't take his team to the playoffs. I'm sorry, Jets fans. I don't want to have to say it, but this is what my gut is telling me because this is what the Jets have been. Even with a good roster like this. I'm sorry. Prove it to me. All right? Prove it to me that you're not cursed this year. And then we have the New England Patriots, kind of the opposite franchise of the Jets, except they're much worse going into the season because obviously they don't have Tom Brady. They're not a dynasty anymore. They haven't been for 4 years. So I got them at 4-13. They just drafted Drake May. I'm not going to say he's going to be bad or anything, but it's just one of those teams where mix a rookie quarterback with the fact that their roster right now is just not very good. They also have a brand new head coach. There's just a lot of new things going around in New England, and they don't have the best roster, so I just can't see them vastly improving off of last year. Now, maybe I don't know who the Jets play in Week 18. If it is the Patriots, there you go. That's like total spoiler game right there. I could totally see that being the reason why the Jets don't make the playoffs, but yeah, Patriots 4-13, about around the same as last year. Okay, the AFC North. First of all, Joe Burrow, just put a picture up of what he looks like right now. Shout out WWE fans talking about how he looks like Cody Rhodes. I said that immediately before I even checked social media, and then I was like, click the comments, everybody's saying the same thing. Anyways, I'm mentioning Joe Burrow because I have the Bengals in first place. I think they're going to have a huge bounce back season. In this video, I also have my Super Bowl prediction and award predictions. I forgot to mention. I'll do that at the end. So just look out for that. I am very high on the Bengals this season, even coming as a Chiefs fan. I'm in a room filled with Bengals stuff. Shout out my dad. People, newcomers, he's he's a giant Bengals fan. People that have been here before, they already know he's a huge Bengals fan. But I'm probably one of the only Chiefs fans that actively roots for the Bengals as well. He's coming back with a vengeance, and he's going to be really, really on it this season, especially if they're healthy. Like Jamar Chase, he wants the contract. Now, the T. Higgins situation is pretty interesting because, obviously it's already come out. I mean, Mike Brown, the owner, is like, yeah, we just don't have enough money to pay him. Like, they're just being completely honest. They're like, yeah, this is your last season here. So I don't know if that's going to affect T. Higgins in the fact that because he wants to get paid, he's going to try his absolute hardest, or maybe he's on slight sour terms with the Bengals right now. I don't know. And that will affect his play negatively. I have no idea. But they have some new things on offense. They got Zach Moss at running back. Joe Mixon is gone now. They got a new tight end, Mike Gesicki. So some new offensive pieces might be fun. They're looking to really fix the playbook this season offensively. They were complaining about how vanilla they were last season. So they're probably going to take a lot more deep shots, a lot more cool designs in the red zone. I'm looking forward to a more high-powered, fun Bengals team this season that's going to bounce back. I have them at 13-4. The Ravens. Now, this is a team that was 13-4 last year, won the division, lost in the AFC Championship game. Lamar Jackson won MVP. I have them at 11-6. I just don't see them having the same season as they had last year. I don't think Lamar is going to play like an MVP. I still think he's going to be very good. They lost pieces. I mean, their major piece that they gained on their team is Derrick Henry, of course, at running back. So, which makes sense. I mean, we go back all the way to the AFC Championship game. That's one of the major reasons why they lost it. They never ran the ball. They didn't trust their run game, which is one of the best parts of the Ravens offense every season. So now you mix him with Lamar Jackson. I mean, forget it. I might be, pulling them back here at 11-6, but that's just how good I think the Bengals are going to be and how tough their division is. Like, don't expect. Now, I guess I just contradicted myself because I have the Bengals winning 13 games. That's how highly I think of the Bengals. Look, those Ravens-Steelers games, that's going to at least split every year. I'm sorry. Ravens-Bengals, I think that's going to split as well. So, I don't know. The division's tough. The Ravens, kind of like an AFC championship hangover, maybe. They've lost some offensive linemen. They've lost some defensive pieces. I don't know. I just don't see the Ravens being as good as last year, but they're going to make the playoffs. And then the Steelers, I really don't want to spend any time on the Steelers. I have them penciled in at 9-8, 10-7-ish. But this one says 9-8, but they're basically going to be like that until Mike Tomlin retires. And then the Browns. So some of you are saying, where's the Browns? They have a great roster. They were 11-6 last year. They were one of the best teams in the NFL. It's just they were kind of overshadowed because there were some higher caliber AFC teams and they were in a tough division. But at some point, the Deshaun Watson karma is just going to have to hit. And I feel it. Some of these are just real gut reactions. And I just feel like the Browns, this is the season where karma's going to hit. And I don't know. Deshaun Watson, he can't keep doing this. I'm sorry. I love their roster. Kevin Stefanski just came off of his second Coach of the Year award, which I don't think a lot of people remember that already. But, yeah, I have the Browns at 7-10. It's just, look, one of these four teams has to miss the playoffs. Maybe not even a winning record. I'm just picking the Browns this time. That's my gut feeling. And then the AFC South, we got the Texans at number 1. Another team that I'm sure everybody and their mother has been hyping up this offseason, including me. I love the Texans. I mean, do I even have to explain their offense? Sure, I will anyways. Why not? I haven't talked about these teams in a while. CJ Stroud, Joe Mixon, Stephon Diggs, Tank Dell, Nico Collins, John Mechie, Robert Woods. I mean, I can go on and on. They have an improving offensive line. They have a young defense. One of the best coaches in the NFL already in D'Amico Ryans. They got new uniforms. They got a pretty easy division, I think. And look, I think CJ Stroud seriously is I've been saying this all offseason. I think he has top 3 potential by the end of this season. Seriously. I already feel that highly about CJ Stroud. He has a lot of Mahomes in him. He has a lot of Joe Burrow in him as well. He's got the leadership. He's got the confidence. He's got the poise in the pocket. He's very talented. I just love the Texans. So they're 12-5 in first. The Colts I'm going to have in second. I think nobody's talking about the Colts. Nobody's talking about the Colts at all. I like Anthony Richardson. Obviously, his major issue so far has been he can't stay healthy. I'm going to have the Colts at 9-7-1. Now, I tend to do this every season. I like picking two teams to tie every year. So the Colts are going to be one of these teams. I'm going to put them at 9-7-1, just with a winning record, slightly better than last season. Now, do they make the playoffs? I think they're going to be right on that cusp. Actually, I'm looking at my predictions right now. They will just miss the playoffs. But I don't know. The Colts are super underrated. Like, I feel like they have some pieces. Nobody ever talks about Michael Pittman, one of the best wide receivers in the NFL. Nobody talks about. Jonathan Taylor's still there. I like Shane Steichen. He's a very underrated coach. Good play caller. You know, if we're talking about fantasy football, Anthony Richardson's one of those guys that you should definitely draft. Like, he's dangerous on his feet. I just like the Colts. I don't know. There's something about them that are frisky, and I just feel like people aren't respecting them enough. And then the Jags, team I think is a little overrated, especially their quarterback, Trevor Lawrence, who just got paid. He's now the highest paid quarterback in the NFL, which, I mean, I guess he's probably already the best franchise quarterback you guys have had. And you won a playoff game. I guess if, you're that highly touted coming out of college, and then you also win a playoff game in your first 3 seasons on the Jaguars, sure, go ahead and pay him. I think he's a slightly above average quarterback with nice hair. That's all it is. So do I see the Jags sucking? No, but they're the other team that's going to have a tie. I have them at 8-1 this season. There you go. Titans, I mean, it's just a retirement home at this point. Their uniforms are ugly. You got Tyler Boyd, DeAndre Hopkins, Calvin Ridley. That sounds great in 2019. I'm sorry. L'Jarius Sneed was a great pickup. I'm very sad as a Chiefs fan that L'Jarius Sneed is gone, of course. But who knows? I mean, I saw a photo on Instagram, this was months ago now, that was like, anytime a player puts on a Titans uniform, they automatically look washed, which is completely true. I don't know. There's just something about the Titans. I haven't even mentioned Will Levis. He just feels like the new Jameis Winston to me. He's just gonna heave it downfield. Sometimes it's gonna be a great play. Sometimes it's gonna be an awful interception. So I don't feel that highly about the Titans. They have a new head coach as well. They're gonna take some, getting used to. I think they're underrated though. I think they're definitely frisky. Kind of like how they beat the Jags last season in Week 18 to end their season. They're going to be like one of those spoiler teams. So I have the Titans in last place at 6-11. Finally, for the AFC, we got the AFC West. Of course, I'm a Chiefs fan, but this isn't biased at this point. I mean, let's be honest. The Chiefs are the best team in the NFL until proven otherwise. They're literally going for a three-peat. I can't believe I'm even saying that as a fan. It doesn't seem real. So yeah, obviously they just won back-to-back Super Bowls. They got Patrick Mahomes. I mean, blah, blah. You guys don't even want to hear it about the Chiefs. I'm going to have them at 13-4. Trust me, as a Chiefs fan, I'm going to be talking Chiefs for the next, 7 months, plenty. The Raiders, surprisingly, this is one of my surprise teams of the season. Coming from me, from a Chiefs fan I just mentioned. I have the Raiders at 10-7. Listen, people are like, are you scared of anybody in your division? And in the grand scheme of things, I'm not. But those Chiefs-Raiders games are going to be tough this year. Now, I think the Chiefs are definitely going to want revenge for the Christmas game, even though, are they really even thinking about that? Maybe even not. I don't know. Who cares? Look, I think the Raiders are super frisky. I like Gardner Minshew. People are like, Gardner Minshew, don't really have a quarterback. They had a winning record with the Colts last year, who I would argue has a worse roster. I mean, you just added Christian Wilkins to your defensive line. You have Christian Wilkins and Max Crosby chasing after Mahomes. I'm scared shitless. Antonio Pierce is a great coach. Shout out, he might be winning one of these awards later, just a quick spoiler. But I just think he's going to lead this team in a direction, even if they're not ultra talented. I just think it's going to be a well-coached, tough team to play. So yeah, the Raiders at 10-7, making the playoffs. It sucks to have to say it as a Chiefs fan, but yeah, that's how I genuinely feel. I'm not going to sit here and lie. That's how I feel about the Raiders. The Chargers, 8-9. I'm sick of the Chargers winning the offseason Super Bowl every single year. This time, it's a new excuse every single offseason. This time it's just because they have Jim Harbaugh that now we think they're a playoff team. No, the roster sucks. Okay, it doesn't suck, but it's not good. Who do they have a wide receiver? Lad McConkey? Quentin Johnson? Quentin Johnson was awful last year. I mean, obviously you got Herbert. Sure, of course. He's great. He's top 10 quarterback. Whatever. Still hasn't won a playoff game. I'm going to keep doing these every offseason. I'm going to give them a losing record until they win a playoff game because I'm sick of it. I'm sick of the Chargers hype. It's every season. And then the Broncos, 3-14, worst team in the NFL. You go from 2 years of hell with Russell Wilson to now you have Bo Nix, Zach Wilson. You have Zach Wilson on your roster in a Broncos uniform. I'm sorry. First of all, I don't even think I talked about the Broncos uniforms coming out this offseason. Awful. Just awful. How did they not go back to the Dion the helmet, the blue helmet with the orange? They're going back to that for 1 or 2 games as a throwback. Just make that your normal uniforms. So not only are you going to suck, but you're not even going to look good while sucking. Okay, now we got the NFC. Look, I'm going to hop on the bandwagon of the fact that I forget what year it is. Maybe since like 2000. It's somewhere in the 2000s. There has not been a repeat winner of the NFC East since then. Cowboys won it last year, so I'm going to go ahead and flip it to the Eagles. Now, the interesting thing with the Eagles, I have them at 11-6, making the playoffs. They obviously had a disaster last season. I don't know what happened with their team. Just an absolute collapse. They sucked at the end of the season. Now, if they go out here and start 1-3, 2-4, hell, even like 3-4, like something like that. Like, if they have a losing record in like October, they might just tear it all down. Like, they're going to panic. The vibes are going to be awful. Like, they're one of those teams where it's very tense right now, where they need to start good, or else they're going to start getting in their head, just like last season. They're going to start thinking, damn, 2022, one-hit wonder. Is Jalen Hurts really a top 10 quarterback? I don't know. Is our defense really as good as we think? Because it wasn't. It was awful. It was the worst defense in the NFL last season. And you put so much effort into drafting in the front 7. And look, they're fine players right now, but all those guys from Georgia, like, they have definitely underperformed. So I'm looking out for the Eagles. They did draft some secondary, which they needed. Obviously, they got Saquon Barkley from the Giants, but like that's not where I'd be spending my money. I wouldn't be spending on I would have just kept DeAndre Swift, honestly. I know everybody thinks Howie Roseman is this amazing GM. I honestly think he's the most overrated GM in the NFL. I'm sorry. All right, and then the Cowboys. Now, they've went 12-5 3 years in a row. I don't think they will be bad. I have them at 10-7, wild card team, but I just don't think Dak Prescott is going to play like he did last season. I think there are significant parts of their team that have gotten worse. Michael Gallup just retired, who was on the Raiders. Obviously they don't have him. They don't have Brandon Cooks anymore. Actually, they do have Brandon Cooks, do they? It doesn't even matter. All they have is CeeDee Lamb, who's disgruntled, who they haven't paid yet. And they also haven't paid Dak. They haven't done anything in this offseason. They said, hey, Zeke, you want to come back and be like a 40-year-old man on our backfield when we have literally no weapons besides you? He's not going to do anything. I get it with Cowboys fans sometimes. Like, I get how tortured they are. Now, people older than me are going to be like, shut up. The Cowboys, we all hate the Cowboys. You got to remember, I was born in 2001. I've never seen the Cowboys be that good. I've seen them be good in the regular season, but not in the playoffs. So it's like, at some point, you got to be like, yeah, I kind of understand your pain. Like, I'm sorry. Like, yeah, Cowboys fans can be annoying sometimes, but like, when you have Jerry Jones doing this shit every offseason, it's got to be exhausting. Cowboys have so much potential, and you haven't even paid Dak. You haven't even paid CeeDee Lamb. Your defense isn't that great. I mean, come on. So 10-7, they're not going to be as good as last year. They just definitely did not improve in the offseason. Commanders 7-10. I feel like they're one of those frisky teams. I'm definitely putting closer to their ceiling. I like Jaden Daniels a lot, which is kind of why I'm making them 7-10. I think he's one of those guys that aren't being as talked about as Caleb Williams or Drake May. I just kind of like the Commanders' roster as like a sneaky. Now their defense isn't great. One of the worst defenses last year, but I don't know. There's something about them that just feels frisky this year. I think they're going to be like 2 years ago. They were 8-1. I don't think like anybody remembers that. It's going to be like one of those seasons where you feel like at the end of the year, you're like, oh, what were the Commanders? Like 5-12? You're like, no, actually they won 7 games. And then Jaden Daniels, look, that's good news. That's good news for Commanders fans. Jaden Daniels can go out there, look solid, and win 7 games. That's a win. And then the Giants. Sorry, Giants fans. I know a lot of you guys. I'm putting you at 5-12. Okay, first of all, with the Giants, Daniel Jones is coming back. I've talked to some of my Giants fan friends, and they're like, Daniel Jones completely disrespected. He's a good quarterback. He has top 10 potential. They just screwed him with the offensive line and injuries. I'm sorry. The 2022 season was a one-hit wonder. If that's the best you could do with Daniel Jones, was win a bunch of close games by basically being lucky and then flaming out against a team that was clearly better than you in the Eagles, you're not going that far. Brian Dable, I don't really know what to say about him, but look, the Giants have pretty much sucked. It's weird. The Giants, my entire lifetime, have won 2 Super Bowls, and they've had like 4 or 5 seasons where they're good, and then every other season they suck. But the season that they're good, they're not even that good, and then they make the playoffs and then make a run. So it's like, I don't know what to say with the Giants. I'm just so used to them winning like 5 games every year. I'm going to put them at 5-12. I just don't think the roster's that much improved. I like Brian Burns. I like that one. I like that he's paired with Dexter Lawrence and Kayvon Thibodeau. Absolutely top 5 defensive line in the league. But the rest of their defense, Daniel Jones, Paid him too much. I don't really like him. Malik Neighbors, sure, it's a great draft pick, but it's kind of like a Garrett Wilson with Zach Wilson situation. Like, I just think you're going to see him being frustrated mid-season with Daniel Jones, and it's just not going to work out. I'm not a Daniel Jones guy. I'm sorry. I think they're going to win 5 games. Okay, NFC North. I am huge on the Packers. Okay. I shouldn't have said huge because I still have them at only 12-5. That makes me sound like I was going to put them at like 15-2. Look, I'm big on the Packers. I like Jordan Love. I've said this at the end of the playoffs last season. I think he really resembles Aaron Rodgers in a lot of ways, not just in how he reads the field, but even his mechanics, like just his accuracy. It's scary. It's scary. I feel bad for Lions, Bears, and Vikings fans because the Packers, man, this is what they do. They barely take any years off. They're just back to back to back with these quarterbacks. And yeah, I just think it's going to continue. I think they have a good coach. They have I think they're the youngest team in the NFL. They got Jaden Reed. They got Christian Watson. They got Romeo Doubs. They got Bo Melton. They got Dontavian Wicks. Who is that? But he's good. So, Josh Jacobs, they just got as well. I can't picture a world where the Packers are bad anytime soon again. Like, I don't know how they keep getting away with this. And Jordan Love sat for like 3 years. Unbelievable. Shout out to Henry Pearson, by the way. He's a native of my town that I live in. I'm not going to say where I'm from. But he was a fullback last year. I don't know if he's still practicing with the team this offseason, but shout out if you're still on the Packers. And then the Lions. You guys are probably wondering, why don't you have the Lions at number 1? I have them at 11-6, right below the Packers. Look, they're one of those teams. I could have been a lot meaner with the Lions, but their roster is just way too stacked right now, especially their offense. They're just way too stacked to not make a playoff team. But I could have gone down the route for the Lions where I said, same old Lions. Like, even though they had a great season last season, unlike any other since the early 90s, you could kind of look at the blown championship game and say, same old Lions, right? I mean, Dan Campbell, you fucked that up for the entire team there. That was horrible. I could see a world where they missed the playoffs. I really could. I'm going to do 11-6. I'm going to be nice. I'm going to actually put them in the playoffs because I don't want to regret it later. But look, all I'm saying, they go 8-9, miss the playoffs. I'm not going to be like flabbergasted. That's all I'm saying. And then the Bears, this is a team that everybody's hyping up because, look, on paper, especially their offense, especially if you think that Caleb Williams is not going to be a bust and he's going to come out and be a good quarterback right away, sure, they could be a playoff team. Do I think Caleb Williams is going to be a bust? No. But do I think he's going to be amazing? No. Also, I don't think the Bears' defense is that good right now. Also, I don't really like their coach that much. You have to admit, it is scary to play against DeAndre Swift, Keenan Allen, Rome Odunze, and DJ Moore. I'm sure and Cole Kmet. Cole Kmet's solid as well. That's a good offense on paper. But look, I don't like them against the Lions and Packers. It's a tough division. The Vikings, for some reason, usually go into Chicago and beat them, I feel like. So yeah, I just got them at 7-10, same record as last year. But it's going to be a different... Here's the bright spot for Bears fans listening. It's going to be a different 7-10 because I know you went 7-10 last year and it felt bad. This is going to be a more optimistic one. Caleb Williams, he's going to have his moments that he's going to get used to. You know, he's going to really get adjusted into the offense. Second half of the season, they're going to look a lot better. And then next season is when I'll probably predict them to make the playoffs. And then the Vikings, 6-11. It's just one of those seasons that the Vikings kind of take off now. Not take off in terms of being good. Like, just they kind of just are completely irrelevant, and then maybe the next season they're good. Like every third season they'll have like a weird 13 win season and then make the playoffs and then choke in the playoffs. And a lot of people love JJ McCarthy. They're saying like he's the best quarterback coming out of this draft class. Now, I don't know where I stand. I really don't. I like the Vikings. They're one of my favorite teams. I'm rooting for them, but I have them at 6-11. I just can't see right now JJ McCarthy going into that offense and just lighting it up. It's one of those gut reactions again where I just can't picture it this season, maybe next season. But yeah, 6-11. Then we got the NFC South. I got the Falcons in first at 10-7 with Kirk Cousins. Now, I'm a little worried about Kirk Cousins. I feel like there is small Matt Ryan 2021 Colts potential with this Falcons team, or at least just with Kirk Cousins. So I'm a little bit worried about that. I don't know if he's going to be the same coming off of this injury, Achilles. But you have to admit, the fact that Arthur Smith is gone, I think. Shout out Bijan Robinson. I mean, you guys know, if you guys are really OG fans of the podcast, you know my thoughts on Arthur Smith and Bijan Robinson. But I'm going to give Bijan Robinson a second chance this year because he's such a good running back. I think he's going to be a top 3 running back in the NFL. I think this offense is going to be well improved. And they have an easy division. So I think the Falcons are the front runner right now. Now you're saying, how about the Bucs? They literally just made the playoffs. They made the divisional round last year. With Baker Mayfield, I just see them as one of those teams where I can't picture Baker Mayfield putting together 2 playoff seasons until proven otherwise. It's just one of those teams, one of those players. So I have them at 8-9, and then I have the Saints at 5-12. I mean, the Saints are just one of those teams. Obviously, everybody knows that they're in cap hell right now. They cannot get out of it. All right, and then the Panthers in last place, 3-14. I'm sorry, Panthers fans. I feel so bad for Bryce Young. Like, they just really didn't give him that much this offseason. They literally lost their 1-star player in Brian Burns to the Giants. I mean, I like Leggett and I like Jonathan Brooks, who they drafted, but that's still just not enough help. Their offensive line still isn't good. As long as David Tepper is the owner, like, it's just going to be a disaster in that organization. So yeah, I mean, it's not Bryce Young's fault. It sucks. Like, they just really didn't improve that much. So they're going to be 3-14, tied for the worst team in the league once again. And now we move on to the NFC West, our final division. I got the 49ers in first place, 14-3. Remember, I'm considering everybody being healthy in this video. So obviously, the most stacked roster in the NFL, the 49ers, is going to be first. You could look at a CMC Madden curse, maybe, Super Bowl hangover. But look, they were a quarter overtime away from being Super Bowl champions. They're still going to be just as good if healthy. They have a stacked roster. 14-3, best record in the NFL. Rams at number 2, 10-7. I'm high on the Rams. I think they're one of those sneaky Super Bowl contenders this year. It depends if Matt Stafford takes a step back, but it really doesn't look like he is anytime soon. I'm pretty sure he still has 3 years left in his contract. You got Puka now. You got Kyron Williams. You got a very young offense. You got Cooper Kupp as the veteran. Your defense needs some work for sure, especially with Aaron Donald retired. But I don't know. There's something about the Rams that are frisky. I think they're confident. I think they're having fun. Just one of those teams I really like. I really enjoy watching the Rams play, especially Puka now. Yeah, I just think they're going to be a solid playoff wildcard team at 10-7. And then the Seahawks, I haven't heard a single person talking about the Seahawks this offseason. Not in media. I haven't heard any of my friends ever mention the Seahawks. I don't know what's going on with the Seahawks. I don't follow the Seahawks. I'm a Chiefs fan. The Seahawks are just like super random with us. Well, actually, not really. They used to be in our division before the Texans. That's a whole nother story. But I got them at 8-9. I don't know what to do with them. They could be better. They could be worse. So I feel like I'm just going to put them right in the middle. Geno Smith, they've been around that time since he's been the starter. There you go. And then the Cardinals. I kind of wanted to put the Cardinals actually better than what I did. I have them at 6-11, but they're one of those sneaky teams you got to watch out for. I think, like, if I had to choose, gun to my head right now, like, team that nobody's picking to make the playoffs, that would shock you, but you could somehow see making, is the Cardinals. I like Kyler Murray. I think he can definitely win maybe comeback player of the year, which I don't have him actually winning in my rewards, I just realized, but he definitely has potential. I guess he played half the season last year, but it's fine. I actually do like Jonathan Gannon, the head coach, even though he's a little corny. And they just got Marvin Harrison to pair with Kyler Murray and Trey Benson and Trey McBride. They got a lot of players. They actually have a sneaky amount of pieces on offense. And I think just like with the Titans in the AFC, they're going to be one of those teams, like maybe they do it with the Seahawks. Maybe the Seahawks are on the cusp of making the playoffs, and then they ruin it by beating them at the end of the season. They're one of those frisky teams. So yeah, there you go. That's all 32 teams' records for the 2024 season. That's my predictions. Very quick, before we are done with this video, I'm just going to list off all of my award winners. I won't explain it. I'll just list them off. And then I have my Super Bowl matchup prediction with the score, who's going to win. So here we go. Let's start with the awards. Defensive Player of the Year, I'm going Nick Bosa. Offensive Player of the Year, I'm going Jamar Chase. Defensive Rookie of the Year, Terrion Arnold with the Detroit Lions, cornerback. Offensive Rookie of the Year, Marvin Harrison Jr., just mentioned him with the Cardinals, wide receiver. Comeback Player of the Year, I wanted to do Kyler. It was between these two players, but I'm going to pick Joe Burrow. And then Coach of the Year, I kind of hinted at this back in the AFC a little bit ago. Antonio Pierce with the Las Vegas Raiders. I know that's shocking coming from me, but yeah, that's my pick. And then finally, for MVP, I'm going the guy who's hyped around the league, who I'm hyped about. I've talked highly about him in this video, CJ Stroud. So finally, here we go, Super Bowl matchup. This is my prediction. Let's see if I get it right in February. I'm going Bengals, Packers, not the Chiefs. I'm going Bengals, Packers. Bengals win it 31-24. And there you go. Thanks so much for watching this video. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Follow us on all social media down below in the comment section. Thank you guys for watching. We'll see you next week.